Welcome to All Stocks Index, a video series that breaks down financial performance of every publicly traded company. In this video, we look at Apple's 2023 financial results. Apple founded on April 1, 1976. Headquartered in Cupertino, California. Current CEO Tim Cook. Number of employees 161,000. Market cap is $3.35 trillion. Current stock price $219. Apple belongs to a technology sector in consumer electronics industry. Products and services produced by Apple are Mac computers, iPhone, iPad, MacBook, home and accessories, wearables, Apple Store, Apple TV Plus. Let's analyze Apple's financial performance for fiscal year 2023 by breaking down the 10K report. Let's begin with the income statement. Sale of products and services produces revenue, and after paying off all expenses, the company is left with net profit. Apple's revenue is derived from the sale of iPhones, 52% of total sales, Macs, iPads, wearables, home and accessories, and services. Apple's annual revenue has been growing for the last 10 years at an average rate of 9%. However, revenue was down in 2023. Cost of goods sold was 56% of total sales, leaving highest gross profit in the last 10 years. Gross profit in 2023 was $169 billion. A large portion was spent on operating expenses, such as research and development, $29 billion, and selling general and administrative expenses, $25 billion. Apple's has been increasing their spending on R&D, causing a rise in operating expenses. Operating income remained fairly steady. Accounting for tax and other net expenses, we get a breakdown of all Apple's expenditures. Thus, after subtracting all cost, we are left with a net profit of $95 billion. Apple's net profit has increased drastically in the last 3 years. Profit margin, which is a ratio of net profit to total revenue, was 25.3%. Again, the last 3 years saw an increase in profit margin. Earnings per share, a ratio of net profit to shares outstanding, was $6.13. Earnings almost doubled in 2021, a huge spike in earnings growth, yet remained flat for fiscal year 2023. One contributing factor is the declining number of shares outstanding due to Apple's continuous shares buyback program. P/E ratio, a ratio of company's share price to its earnings, was 28.3 the time of the reporting. Historically, Apple's P/E ratio was hovering at around 10, but jumped 3 times higher in the last few years, driven by higher revenue as well as market demand. Moving on to the balance sheet. Total assets equal total liabilities plus equity. Apple is holding long-term investments as its largest asset, over $100 billion. Similarly, long-term debt is Apple's biggest liability. Let's examine Apple's ability to pay its short-term debt obligations. First, the cash ratio. We take the most liquid assets and divide by current liabilities. While this ratio 0.5 appear unfavorable, Apple has plenty of assets to cover its short-term obligations. Current ratio is around 1, so current liabilities are covered by current assets. Apple holds billions in short-term investments as well as net receivables. A stricter test, quick ratio, confirms that Apple has no trouble covering its short-term obligations. Furthermore, Apple's total assets are 3 times greater than its total debt. However, debt to equity has seen a reversal since 2018, while debt increased, shareholders' equity decreases. Apple's pays a good amount of dividend, an attractive facet for investors. Growing revenue pushed the return on assets to its highest levels, indicating that Apple efficiently managing its balance sheet to generate profits. Investors have been extra happy with their return on equity, which exceeded 100% since 2021. Breaking down the cash flow from operating activities, it is clear Apple sales drive the majority of its cash inflow. As for the financing activities, Apple spent $83 billion on stock repurchase and $15 billion on paying out dividends, making its shareholders very happy. Apple invested in $10 billion in property, plant, and equipment and purchased almost $30 billion in other investments, while at the same time sold a larger amount in maturities. So how much cash does Apple actually have? Strictly cash, Apple has around $30 billion. But as we saw on the balance sheet, Apple does a lot of investing, Therefore, in actuality, Apple is holding over $160 billion in cash and securities. If Apple paid off its debt, it would still have $50 billion in cash left. Investors and analysts typically look at the company's free cash flows, which is calculated by subtracting capital expenditures from operating cash flows. In 2023, Apple generated almost $100 billion in free cash flow. Estimating free cash flows into the future and discounting them to present value, we can approximate the company's intrinsic value and derive its current share price. We get $123 a share. According to this model, Apple is trading at a premium. That's all for now on Apple. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. We plan to provide similar content for all publicly traded companies.